a very, very, very big story. A Muslim, two of them actually, were on a plane going from Portland to Texas. And they caused a ruckus on the airplane. When they were not seated next to each other, they started to verbally attack the stewardess, according to Associated Press reports, and started screaming, Allah Akbar. And then one of them tried to light an electronic cigarette. Well, there was no FBI. There was no Homeland Security. There were no air marshals, but there were Texans. Real, honest, beefy men. They jumped up and subdued the Middle Easterners. However, my friends, here's the story that you really have to understand. It's the story within the story. I'm going to play for you the news version of this. It's 30 seconds long from one of the gelded reporters that works for a news outlet in Texas. I want you to listen to the gelded report first on this incident. Listen.
Continental Flight 1118 took off from Portland tonight, headed to Houston, had to be turned around about 20 minutes into the flight when the pilot decided to turn around and land back in Portland, all because of a belligerent passenger. Now, two Middle Eastern men wanted to sit next to each other on the flight, and when it didn't work out, one of them became very upset, started screaming. He then lit an electric cigarette. Flight attendants were clearly worried. They asked passengers for help, and when the plane landed, the police came on board, took the suspect off in handcuffs, and escorted his friend off the plane.
Now, notice this gelded reporter being a good little boy who got his job in the news station because he says belligerent passenger, not Muslim. Then he says two Middle Eastern men, not Muslim. Then he says one started yelling. He didn't say Allah Akbar. But I want you to hear what one of the passengers, or several of them, had to say, as opposed to the gelded, useless reporter. Listen to the next one.
He was screaming, Allah is great, you know, and it kind of worries you when all of that happens. But believe me, there were enough men to hold him down.
Absolutely. Every guy that was in my area was ready to go. I mean, it was not even a thought. You could tell the buckles were off. People were already leaning towards the aisles.
It almost made me cry to see the way everybody responded, because the gentleman that could help got up and helped the stewardess. She was just a little bitty thing.
She ran back, and she got the plastic handcuffs and ankle cuffs.
You know, it's just happened what should have happened. Everybody got up and did a part that needed to do it.
Not a word from the FBI, not a word from Homeland Security. We were coming back from the alley. We got a report that a bunch of white racists jumped on a couple of Muslim gentlemen, and we're going to have the girls at DHS and FBI get to the bottom of this. We're working on possibly having all the passengers arrested. That's the report coming out of DHS. You know, we'll be going down to the lanes again tonight where we'll discuss what to do with them passengers. Not a word from Homeland Security, not a word from the FBI, not a word from the brave men and women at the TSA. It took Texans. Now, what's interesting to me is that this could have been a dry run to see if there was a soft flight that they could do all over again what they did in New York. After all, Portland, as you well know, is one of the heartlands of extreme left-wing stupidity and left-wing fanaticism, left-wing weakness. So if you were a terrorist doing a dry run, wouldn't you try a plane out of Portland? What these Middle Easterners didn't know was that the plane from Portland was going to the heart of America, into Houston, Texas, where apparently the men act a little different than the gelded men of Portland, Oregon. So they screamed Allah Akbar, try to light an electronic cigarette, did they? And that's not considered a threat to national security. That's not considered anything but a slight belligerence on the part of the passengers.